Hi, my name is Ella, and guess what time it is? It's cookie time! This year, I'm planning on selling 200 boxes or more. Please help supporting my troop by buying 1 boxes or maybe even 2 if you want to. My troop is planning on going on an exciting trip and helping my community. Please help support me by buying 1 box or more. Bye!
What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for January 28th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. Yes, it's Tuesday. That means it's time for a little positivity / motivation. Today's quote ties right in with the Eagles. Also has a major impact, or could have a major impact on your life as well. And this quote comes from Ryan Holiday. We forget, in life, it doesn't matter what happens to you or where you come from. It matters what you do with what happens and what you've been given. Each obstacle we overcome makes us stronger for the next one. And if you really think about this Eagles team, it's all about the obstacles. Going back to last year, dealing with that collapse and the issues between Jalen and the coach and the coordinators and all of that really helped shape and forge what this season has become, especially early on when we were 2-2 and were able to really be the best team in the NFL since that bye week. But this goes deeper than sports, because we talk all the time on Tuesdays about learning from your struggles, learning from your mistakes, and just getting better. And again, this doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, what race you are, what nationality, your age, anything. It's all about getting better. Learn from your obstacles, learn from your mistakes, learn from the mishaps, get better because of them. And I think that's what this quote is saying. It doesn't matter the hand you were dealt, it's how you play it. And too often people say, oh, well, he was dealt a bad hand in life. Yeah, but there's a lot of people out there that are dealt bad hands that overcome it. And truthfully, there's a lot of people out there that were dealt great hands, pocket aces, and screw it up. So again, it's all about how you manage, how you play that hand that you're given, and getting better because of it. It's what you do with what you're given. And sometimes people are given more, sometimes people are given less, but it's how you navigate and how you manage that. And honestly, just get better, be better. And to tie it back to sports again, look at this Eagles team. 1 year ago, no chance we thought we'd be here. Lots of questions and things like that surrounded, but they were able to overcome those obstacles, learn from their mistakes, and get better because of it. And even this season, 2-2, struggling, the offensive line goes in and says we need to run the ball more. Boom, look at where we are. And I think this is a good quote to really go through our weeks and the next 2 weeks getting ready for the Super Bowl. We forget, in life, it doesn't matter what happens to you or where you come from. It matters what you do with what happens and what you've been given. Each obstacle we overcome makes us stronger for the next one. We got the biggest obstacle ahead of us here in a couple weeks with the Chiefs, but let's take them down. Let's take them down. Hopefully you can do something with that throughout your week, though, and we will have more Tuesday motivation / positivity next week. All right, let's do some housekeeping. It's still not too late to buy your Girl Scouts from Ella. All the information you need is in the description. Celebrate the Super Bowl and go buy the Girl Scout cookies. And then go to my social media and follow me there. Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. At Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spread the word. If you're enjoying this, likely someone within your circle will too. Be sure to check out our boys at the On Pattison newsletter. Great insights, great takes delivered right to your inbox. We're featured in there a couple times a week. Pretty cool stuff. They're doing great things over there. So go, be sure to check them out. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, who was the GOAT of the game? Pretty split on this one. Saquon and Jalen split the votes 45% each. Had a couple write-ins for Howie. Had a couple write-ins for Zach Bond. Shout out to B Kaiser 8821 on TikTok, who said, this was a tough one, but you got to go Saquon because that first run really set the tone for the game. Washington comes down, takes that 12-minute drive, kicks the field goal, and then Saquon says it's going to take more than 3 to beat us. So shout out to B Kaiser 8821 on TikTok for reaching out and giving their opinion. Thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There will be another one later in the show. All right, so as I sort of had the day yesterday to let this sink in and really kind of process what happened, way more impressive than what I really think I thought it was at first. I'm not going to lie, got emotional driving home from the train station, just kind of letting it all sink in and really thinking about where I've been in my journey as an Eagles fan. And it really struck me, my buddy's son, like I mentioned yesterday, really doesn't know anything different. And he's like 16, 17. So I thought back, and I really started following the Eagles consistently, paying attention and knowing what was going on, probably back in 87, the strike season. And that's basically what, 38 years ago, 37 years ago, whatever it is. And kind of thinking about it and broke that time frame into half. So really, if you go from like 1987 to 2005, 11 playoff appearances, 20 playoff games, 5 divisional titles, 4 conference championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance, no titles, and minus the run that Andy Reid went on, for the most part, with the exception of maybe that 88 team, always felt that the Eagles were a second-tier team. They were a good team that were capable of beating anybody on any given day, but they weren't in the same level as like the 49ers, and then later it was the Cowboys, then it was the Packers. Even in the AFC, like the Denver Broncos, the Bills, never felt the Eagles belonged in that conversation until Andy Reid came. So that was sort of like that first 18-year window. So that's why we're kind of like we are. Like, yes, we had the playoff experiences, but again, we were like the top tier 2 team for a couple of those seasons. And sometimes we were in the playoffs and didn't belong at all. So enjoy what we have, because then that second tier from 2006 to 2025, 12 playoff appearances. So it's pretty similar. 2 more division titles with 7, 4 conference championship games again, 3 Super Bowl appearances with 1 title, and really almost always a legitimate contender, or at least in the conversation as one of the better teams in the NFC, and if not the league. So I think putting it into perspective like that, from a numbers perspective, like sometimes with numbers, I'm like, you can always twist numbers to fit your narrative. Because truthfully, I didn't expect the playoff appearances and things like that to be as close as they were. But it's just the mindset of the team. And I think that's the difference. I come from where I didn't feel like we belonged. We were just that team that was lucky enough to make the playoffs, and we were the stepping stone for either the Cowboys, the Packers, the Niners, or whoever younger, at least until Andy Reid. And then, of course, we know about the struggles with the NFC Championship game losses. But this era is different. The past 20 years has been completely different than any, obviously, in Eagles history. So this is very special. And what they did on Sunday is incredible. Putting up 55 points in the conference championship game, most points ever scored in a conference championship game, and they did it all running the ball, minus the touchdown to AJ. So it's just complete and total domination, and this is not my childhood Eagles team. And I mean, I am all here for it. I'm all in. I enjoy it though, because it wasn't always like this, and appreciate what you got if I can give you any advice. But one more game, we got to do it. One thing I did notice yesterday, lots of complaints about the refs in both games. Mostly it was from the KC Buffalo fans, but there were a lot of Commanders fans complaining about missed calls and this, that, and the other. And listen, from a Washington perspective, there may have been some questionable calls. There were a couple questionable calls that were missed against the Eagles too. But come on, man. 55-23. Not going to really make that much of a difference. And they're not big on putting things on the refs anyway and things like that. But that does lead to today's question of the day. Because everybody knows the narrative with the Chiefs and the referees. It's still early in the week, but are you concerned that the referees will be an issue in this game? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that anything else Philly sports related off your chest. It's all fair game. I don't know. I think if you do your job and you got to play to take the refs out of it, I'm a big believer that refs don't necessarily make a difference one way or the other unless it's a close game. So the best way to do that is not make it a close game. I talk about it all the time when people get all pissy in baseball when guys do bat flips or when people are like, oh, you're running up the score in football or you're celebrating too much. Guess what? Stop it. If you stop them from doing it, they're not going to be able to flip a bat. They're not going to be able to celebrate and run up the score. So I think this goes in line with that. Beat the shit out of them, and you can take the referees out of it. I mean, but let me know your thoughts. Do you think the refs will play a role in this game? But then the other thing that was big news yesterday was all the other teams in the city congratulated the Eagles on winning the NFC Championship game, except for one notable exception. And that would be your team, your town, your 76ers. Kind of a very Tom Petty, like the winner of the Tom Petty Award for pettiness would be Joshua Harris and the Sixers for not congratulating them. As you know, Joshua Harris is the owner of the Washington Commanders. But I just thought that was just a very petty, almost borderline childish thing. But that was like a big story. But we're going to the Super Bowl. We'll have more as we go. Lots of different story ideas and things to discuss moving forward. But like I said, enjoy it because this is a different era of Eagles football. And again, Jeffrey Lurie said a few years ago in training camp in his State of the Team address that he wanted to be the gold standard of the NFL. And everybody laughed him out of, I think they were in Lehigh at the time, laughed him out of Lehigh. Not going to lie, I kind of look at this team as the gold standard. All we need to do is add another trophy to the trophy case, and I think certainly that conversation can be had. But again, you want to let me know your thoughts on that too. But do you think the officials are going to play a role in this game in a couple of weeks? All right. Flyers, good win yesterday against the Devils. They led the whole way. Good bounce back for them. Bobby Brink and Joel Farabee scored 28 seconds apart. Always cool. I watched the replay of this, and they were still, the public address announcer was still announcing the last goal when the second goal scored. So good win for them. Good bounce back. Snap that 2-game skid. They're back at it tomorrow up in North Jersey to take on the Devils again. Sixers in action tonight. The petty Sixers against the LA Lakers. No Paul George. Joe's still out. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, doesn't make a sound. That's kind of where we are with the Sixers. Be sure to check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things going on with their fan network. Looking forward to this week's NFC East episode. Big matchup in the NFC East, obviously, this week. So looking forward to that. And then go to Philly Goat and celebrate. They got you covered with any kind of Eagle gear you want. If you can think of it and imagine it, they probably have it. And probably a lot of things you wouldn't even have thought of. So as seen on TV, go to Philly Goat, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order and do a little bit of celebratory shopping to celebrate the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. And then buy the Girl Scout cookies. But PhillyGoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. All right, today, January 28th was a very busy and unique day in Philly sports history. So we got a couple, a rare quadruple header of quick hitters here. And first, on this day in 1958, the Eagles drafted John Madden. Yes, before he was a Hall of Fame coach, announcer, and the guy whose face is on the video game, he was a football player, drafted in the 21st round, number 244 overall out of Cal Poly by the Eagles. He was a tackle, hurt his knee in training camp, never played for the Eagles, and that ultimately led to him getting into coaching. But the Eagles drafted John Madden on this day in 1958. Then in 1974, it was Super Fight 2 up in Madison Square Garden. Muhammad Ali versus Philly's own Joe Frazier in the second of their 3 epic battles. This one went Ali's way with a 12-round unanimous decision. And all 3 of those fights, basically, both of the fighters were like, they were just absolutely brutal. But on this day in 1974, it was Super Fight 2, Ali Frazier up in Madison Square Garden. From one Philly legend to another, on this day in 2004, the Temple Owls beat the St. Bonaventure Bonnies, I think they are, 76-57. It was John Chaney's 700th career win, his last big milestone as coach of the Owls. Ended his legendary Hall of Fame career with 741 wins total. But on this day in 2004, got his 700th career win. And then finally, one of the most underrated signings probably in Phillies history happened on this day in 2008. They signed their third baseman of that World Series winning team, Pedro Feliz, signed with the Phillies on this day in 2008. And truthfully, kind of was the unsung hero of that team. Didn't really, he wasn't one of the stars. However, played solid defense, timely hitting, and everybody will remember he hit the game-winning RBI in Game 5 of the World Series. So lots of random cool things happened on this day in Philly sports history. First, in 1958, the Eagles drafted John Madden out of Cal Poly. Unfortunately, never played for them, hurt his knee, went on to be a coach, and the rest, as they say, is history. In 1974, Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier up in Madison Square Garden, Super Fight 2. Muhammad Ali winning with a 12th round unanimous decision. John Chaney wins game number 700 in 2004. And the Phillies signed Pedro Feliz, who hit the game-winning RBI in Game 5 of the World Series. A World Series winning RBI for Pedro Feliz. He signed this day in 2008. And then finally today, continue our forgiveness. We're going to finish this month out strong to bring that good vibe and the positive energy and the good karma as the Eagles look to take down the Kansas City Chiefs. Today, we're going to forgive Buddy Ryan. And I know this is kind of an odd one because everybody loves Buddy, including myself, going back to when I started off as a fan back in 87 and the teams I grew up with. And I know this is odd, especially heading into the Super Bowl sort of hype up and everything. And Buddy had a great eye for talent, drafted a lot of those great guys on defense. Seth Joyner gave a lot of those guys chances, signing, brought in Clyde Simmons, brought in Reggie. All of those things sort of, he had an eye for talent, was great at building an amazing, outstanding defense. I've made it perfectly clear that 91 team, even though he wasn't the coach, that was his defense, and it's the greatest defense ever of all time. Offensively, though, didn't really care too much about offense. And I mean, going out throughout his career, he didn't care. I mean, he was the defensive coordinator that got carried off the field for the Bears. When he was in Houston as the defensive coordinator, punched Kevin Gilbride during the game. Just basically turned Randall loose. I remember this was a huge deal at the time. Randall would call his own plays and essentially didn't get a lot of coaching. But he said, make 5 big plays. The defense will take care of the rest. And for a good part of those teams, Randall would go out and make 5 big plays. And as Buddy said, the defense took care of the rest. Randall did have the benefit of having Doug Scoville as his quarterback coach, who was like a mentor type father figure to him. Unfortunately, he died in the 1989 season, and really Randall was never the same in Philly after that. When Buddy did decide to finally get him some coaching and bring in Rich Kotite, it was probably too little too late. They didn't really get along too well. Although, I will say that 1990 season by Randall was an MVP type season under Rich Kotite. So he finally had some coaching and went to an MVP. I just go back to that. If Buddy only put a little bit of energy into the offense, just how great those Eagles teams could have been, how good Randall Cunningham could have been. So, Buddy, I love you, bud. I love you, brother. I absolutely love Buddy Ryan, but you could have gave a damn about coaching the offense just a little bit. Bring a guy like Rich Kotite in a little bit sooner. But you know what? It's all good. We need the positive vibes. Buddy, I forgive you for not providing Randall with the offensive coaching he needed to be a Hall of Famer. He had the talent, all the talent in the world, and if he just had a little bit of coaching, because look what he did when he had coaching. 1990, Rich Kotite came in, a legitimate offensive coordinator. Say what you want. He made Randall an MVP candidate that year. And then look what he did when he got to Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, it helps having Chris Carter and Randy Moss, but if he just gave him a little bit of coaching, Buddy, rest in peace, but damn, man, give the man a little bit of coaching. We could have won a couple more Super Bowls. But, Buddy, I do forgive you. Busy day in Eagles history, or Philly sports history, I should say. 2008, Philly signed Pedro Feliz, who hit the game-winning RBI in Game 5, the World Series clinching RBI. 2004, John Chaney gets his 700th win. 1974, Frazier II up in Madison Square Garden. And in 1958, the Eagles draft John Madden, who unfortunately hurt his knee in training camp and never played. We will continue our Super Bowl coverage tomorrow. Still feels weird saying that sometimes, but I'm excited for it. Let me know your thoughts for the question of the day, though. Do you think the officials are going to play a role in this game, or are the Eagles just going to roll them and it's not going to matter? I would love to see them just roll them. But let me know. 267-495-8531. That's Back to the Future voice and text line. Remember, it's not about the hand you're dealt. And I'm summarizing the quote. But it's not about the hand you're dealt. It's how you play it. Learn from your mistakes. Get better. And take the lessons you learn to get ready for the next obstacle, because it's coming. And that's true in sports and in life as well. So go, have yourselves a week, and we'll be back with more positivity and motivation on Tuesday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 28th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.